Well, today I happen to be in the main square of Tallinn, the capital of Estonia, usually a bustling place in time before Christmas, great Christmas market, or in the summertime, a great place where people gather. But at the moment, it's just full of little Christmas trees and nothing much happening. Very few tourists this time of year, of course. The weather isn't really that great. But we're here to talk today about number 11 in our series on prophecy, allusions, images, symbols. This is Ruth and Esther, and you might immediately say, well, what's Ruth and Esther got to do with prophecy? They're not prophetic books. Ruth is the story of this girl who comes from Moab, not an Israelite, goes with her mother-in-law Naomi and goes back to Israel, pick up where Naomi left off, and you know the whole story of her romance there with Boaz and so on, and that she becomes one of the ancestors of Jesus. Esther, by contrast, is the winner of a beauty contest in a pagan kingdom. What were they doing there in Babylon? They shouldn't have been there. They were supposed to go back with the rest of the Jews to Jerusalem, but many of the Jews chose to stay there, and the majority did not go back to Jerusalem. So you have a couple of very interesting stories. So why are we looking at them in this particular series, talking about prophecy? Well, because they're allusions. We're talking about allusions, images, symbols, and that's really what these are about. They're not just stories about people. They symbolize different things. You look in the quotes for this time, you'll see some very interesting ideas. The book of Ruth is a love story, much like the love story between Christ and Christ's bride, the church. Boaz represents Jesus, while Ruth generally represents the church, and so it goes. And then this other quote that says that the book of Ruth is an Exodus gone wrong, an Exodus with a bitter twist. Exodus stories are supposed to involve people going out empty and coming back full. But Naomi's Exodus is not like this. I went away full and the Lord has brought me back empty, says Naomi. She's lost her husband and her son. She's unable to have more children. She's in need of food and land. And so it's almost the exact opposite of what happened back there in the book of Exodus. And then Maggie Felitsberto says this: the entire story of Ruth is a vast, sweeping allegory for the Jesus story. And it's a very interesting perspective about how this woman comes back from a place where she really had no reason to move from. And so she's really talking about something that is really very different, very significant. So as we look at this, let's look at the book of Esther. Again, not one that we would talk about prophecy. She's this woman who is there, who is, quote, married as one of the many wives of the king there, and she preserves her people. God is not mentioned in the book of Esther, as we know, and we also look at that and say, well, what's that all about? Well, here's another quote in the notes for this time. When we scrutinize the text of Esther for traces of God's activity, we are doing what the author has made us do. The author would have us probe the events we witness in our own lives in the same way. He's teaching us the theology of possibility, the willingness to face history with an openness to the possibility of divine providence, even when history seems to weigh against its likelihood, as it did in the dark days after Haman's decree. In this way, the book offers a stance of profound faith. It wasn't supposed to be like that, and our lives were not supposed to be the way we are. We are living in Babylon, we could even say that, and we shouldn't be here. We are looking for a different place. But God is still here with us, even though we might not have started at plan A, but we're down to plan Z. And this is the encouragement for us. They are allegories, they represent different things, and we see ourselves in that. And that's very much to do with the way we should also be seeing prophecy, I think. So as you take up the books of Ruth and Esther, read them again with a different kind of perspective, saying, What is this telling me about the great controversy? What is this telling me about the way that God wants me to operate in this world which is far short of what God has really wanted for any of us? And let's look forward to that final resolution. There's a happy ending, if you could say, to the story of Ruth. You could say there's a happy ending, at least for the Jews there in the book of Esther. So let's look for the way in which God is going to help resolve all this, prophetically speaking, in the future, as we consider how we understand these allusions, images, and symbols that are full of meaning in the Bible. May God bless you as you study.